Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Vegas Legal Magazine podcast. I'm Mark Fierro with Vegas Legal Magazine publisher Tyler Morgan and Fierro Communications Vice President Jeff Haney. Thanks so much for joining us today. Las Vegas is a city of world-class developers. You think of the Strip, Steve Wynn, Kirk Kerkorian, Sheldon Adelson, Bill Bennett, Hughes Corporation. But there are a legion of other developers doing tens, in some cases hundreds of millions of dollars of development on a scale that doesn't always come to the public's attention. Our guest today, Yohan Lowie, founder and CEO of EHB Companies, has developed some of the landmark residential, commercial, and government properties, especially west of town. But he's becoming best known for an ongoing battle with officials at City Hall, Las Vegas City Hall, in his effort to develop what was the Badlands golf course. He's suing city councilman, even Judge Jim Crockett, over a decision made in the case. There are big names, big emotions on both sides. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So, for starters, give us some context. Tell us about some of the other projects that the average person might not know you're connected to.
Well, EHB Companies have built the Queensridge Towers, the only high-rises, residential high-rise west side town. Tivoli Village next door to it. It's on the same corner right next to the subject property. We built also 42% of the custom homes in Queensridge. We started the custom homes within the Queensridge neighborhood that's surrounding our golf course. And we did Sahara Center, a project we recently completed. We did some other commercials within a mile to 2 mile vicinities. Those are some the larger project. We also did a Supreme Court building on 4th Street, the newly built, and delivered about a couple of years ago. So that's some of the projects we have done.
I'm going to make you a bet. I'm going to make you that all of those were easier to do than this one so far.
Yes, no, yeah, they were easy. They were easy to get, entitlements and go to work. This is, unfortunate situation, but it will be resolved in the end in the courts.
Up until now, what is it about that one particular area of town that is so appealing to you? Why not the Strip or downtown or the Southwest or the Southeast? Why that particular geographical area on the map?
I've come to this neighborhood in 1996. I bought my first lot over there to build a house for myself, 1996. So I was maybe the third or fourth lot buyer, and immediately start building. And I thought that it's the best area, the best neighborhood in town, and I live there till today. I still live in Queensridge. I have a nice home there, and I intend to live there for many years to come. I actually knew about the golf course residential zoning and ability to develop from the Pecoli's in 2001 or 2, and with an ongoing problem in 2002 and 3, that resulted in the Pecoli's not building at the time because they had still a lease, and the golf course operator did not want to release a portion of the lease, but we were very well aware of those land rights at that time. And with that, I continue buying, banking on that one day I'm going to get the property and protect the neighborhood. And I thought that we came up with when the property came up for sale. We had a contract for years to purchase it from the Pecoli's, and when we closed, we came with the best plan forward of how we think it should look like and how this neighborhood will maintain and increase its value to become the best by far neighborhood in town.
What is it that it's like the message has drifted over time? What was it originally that you wanted to build versus is it still that same plan that what you want to build now? Or was it a smaller, was it larger, was it the same? Where were you?
No, the plans after this court battle have changed dramatically. After the city refused the development agreement that they insist on. So I'll tell you what, first thing I'll tell you what the problem was. The problem is when we came up with, we knew about these land rights for a long time, went to the city and said, city, please check, the planning department, check and tell us if you feel that there is any way that this property can be restricted, that it cannot be built. Because we're just simply not going to close and let, the Pecoli's deal with restriction if there is any. And they came back after a few weeks of studying and said, That's amazing. There's absolutely no restriction. This piece of property is developable to up to 7 units per acre at a time. And no matter what, we cannot refuse anybody for less than 3.5 units per acre. So I said, okay, so here's my idea of what I think should be done. First thing, before closing, I just want to go back a little bit. I was planning to, in my thoughts, to keep a golf course open on 180 acres, just about, do a championship golf, and move a lot of the zoning down to the bottom and develop only the bottom piece. And within 8 years to close the golf course, while after I'm planting heavy trees on both sides of the fairways, and only then close the golf course and use the property for residential. And we hired a company to come in, professionals that build their golf courses here in this jurisdiction too, and ask them to survey the golf course and tell us what the possibilities are. And they came back and say, hey, bad news, you're going to have to close this golf course. How can I close the golf course just like that? And say, this golf course is not going to make it. You need $14.7 million worth of infrastructure. There is almost $5 million, I don't remember exactly the number now, $4.5 million worth of unfunded liabilities. The golf course is dying as it's being irrigated. It's like, the sediment, it needs to be replaced. Greens have to be replaced. And the golf industry is on a slide down.
Yeah, there's a lot of courses closing down.
So, this is the first time I heard that golf courses are closing. Now, we didn't buy the property to operate the golf course. We're not operators, so my plan was to build the golf course and lease it to an operator, 18 holes instead of 27 holes. It was the worst golf course anyway in town because of the terrain, and there's a desert target type of golf course. So with that, we had to come up with a new idea. So I came up with the idea: how do I keep the property green? How do I make it that people would still, will maintain values and create extraordinary value? And I bought in another company. I had water rights that were very valuable. The mixture between the land and the water, I was able to turn about 180 acres of it to a preserve and I offered 120 acres of greens and 65 homes in between it on 183 acres. So you have about 3 units per acre. 3 acres per unit, 3 acres per unit, and that was what I went to the city, and I said for that because the cost of infrastructure and the cost of development is high. I said, let me have the zoning that I have and basically pull the zoning down. So down zone this area and up zone the bottom, which is next to the Queensridge Towers and the road and the major thoroughfares, and build over there up to 3,000 condos. And that's what I asked for. The city was just absolutely playing the department. I think we got the best, comments and the best, commendation for, sophisticated, thinking and plan, and that's what it should be. And for that, they start coming up with, okay, don't close the property and you can move on and, we'll intend those plans. So, but you need to go to the neighbors and, start that discussion. So I went to the neighbors. And I went to Queensridge Homeowners Association and said, listen, I want to sit down with you. I have great ideas of how to make, about 10 acres of property to give to Queensridge on the entries. Give some water rights, do some ponds, irrigate some of the Queensridge, open it, put arts in Queensridge and on our property to make Queensridge the most amazing thing. We may be able to cooperate together, get some gates in from the neighborhood and turn it into, one of a kind. And the first meeting I remember at the Queensridge neighborhood, we had people clapping. We went and did the same presentation at the Queensridge Towers. We had standing ovation, people clapping. What a genius idea! What you're going to do for the area here, with all the walking paths and the water and the public amenities for everybody to share. And with the next meeting that I had, there was a big commotion. Mr. Frank Schreck came to the meeting and. Was raising his voice and yelling that not the one house can be built, and we should all fight it. And so I went after the meeting and saying, "What is it? What do you want?" I said, "Well, I don't know." I said, "Do you want to sit down and negotiate? Let's sit down and design this together." "No, I'll wait for you to file a plan." And then within a few weeks after, we got sued. On just a frivolous suit. You didn't subdivide the property correctly, and the thing is still tied up in the Supreme Court. It'll be returned, and I'm sure that we're gonna prevail on this one too. There's nothing there, just to hold us up because they knew that we already had a purchaser for a proportion of the high density. Within a few days after the lawsuit was filed, Mr. Streck came to our office and with another political advisor and sat there for about an hour and a half and told my partner and my president that the deal is that we're going to have to give 180 acres of land and all the water rights to him. And for that, we're going to get, he doesn't care what we do on the bottom, he'll get us 3,000 to 4,000 units.
Shrek said that he wanted it.
That's what he said. We're going to have to give it. So my partner asked him, what are you willing to pay for it? And he's saying, not an effing penny. And don't be greedy.
Now, he's saying that he wanted it for himself personally, or he wanted it set aside for the homeowners.
He couldn't say, he was not negotiating for the homeowners. He admitted in his deposition that he was not authorized to talk for any homeowners. He wasn't speaking. There was no board, and this was before the change of the board. So this was a shakedown. We took it as nothing other than a shakedown and moved on to present our property. And this is what brought us to where we are. The same threats and demands were repeated by other people in the neighborhood to us, that we have to deed the land to them. We actually offered us saying, you guys want to keep 180 acres of golf course? $1 a year for the rest of your life. It's not enough. So for the rest of your kids' life. For $1, you can run it golf course for as long as you want. It's standard, here it is, you got everything. You can have 180 acres and run it. You have to deed it to me. You have to deed it to us.
Here's, and this is unusual about this case, because in Crockett's decision, and that's probably about all I really know about other than what's been in the newspapers. In Crockett's decision, he says that the city initially said no, universally, and then initially said no, and then changed to a positive footing to allow you to build. You're saying it's the opposite, correct?
Yes, it's the opposite. I think that unfortunately, Honorable Judge Crockett decision is wrong. It's a judicial review, so there's no evidence.
Am I mistaken in my reading of Crockett, or is that what Crockett said in his decision?
I don't know. There's too many things. What happened is Judge Crockett's applied Peccoli Ranch master plan to our property. He asked the city attorney, flat out in the hearing, he asked the city, is it a part of Peccoli Ranch or not? City attorney's answer was this: it's very complicated. So I can tell you right now, our piece of property is not Peccoli Ranch Phase 2. It's not a recorded master plan. It was a piece of paper that was filed in 1990 by an owner that wanted in the future to be able to do, to expand this property. It expired in 1995. That's zoning action and the idea of the Peccoli Ranch master plan. There's a time limit on that it expired. Evident by another rezone for all our parcels that we own today. The golf course was not one parcel, it was a few parcels that we purchased through a company. We purchased a company, we didn't buy land. And that company had the
Held
land.
that.
Right, held it. So there is a rezone in 2001, it's called Ordinance 5353. I think we have a copy of the document here, you can see. It is clearing anything that happened before. And it takes the land from you, undeveloped, into an RPD 7. So if it takes it from you, undeveloped, to RPD 7, it means there's no zoning, there's no master plan, there's nothing else. And the language in the ordinance is very common and very clear. It says that anything in conflict of this ordinance, anything in conflict, a raw, a partial ordinance, anything in conflict is hereby repealed. The language is very clear. So this piece of property is zoned RPD 7 without anything, without any master plan on it, anything. It also said what was the general plan. It's a city guiding for zoning on top of it at the time that they transferred it. That they rezoned the property. And it was from medium law. So this piece of property was always, and pieces of property we bought for development now, in the Peccoli Ranch master plan, if it was a part of the Peccoli Ranch master plan, they were RPD 7. So the opposition, to create mud and, try to get us up because the connection in the courts and the connection to the city brought a lot, stirred a lot of mud up, trying to say what's Peccoli Ranch master plan. This area is going to be ruled soon. It's not Peccoli Ranch master plan, and that ordinance supersedes it. Also, there is an ordinance, there is a statute, 278 349 3E, that says that no matter what the general plan that the city installed on your property, the zoning supersedes. It's specifically said. that zoning supersedes everything, because all master plans do, they get to zoning. So once you have zoning, you can develop the property. So now, to get back to the beginning of your question, is why are we not keeping the same plans that we had before? That now everybody's saying, why can you bring it back? Well, it would be a much better deal for us. We can, because we are not going to change zoning. We are not going to do any change to any zoning on this piece of property at this point. And from now on, it's only RPD 7, because that's our zoning. To change zoning, the city has the discretion to allow it or not. We don't want to down zone. We don't want to change any zoning. We want to go with our zoning that we have entitlement. We have entitlements to use our zoning to build a project that we want to build. And the new plans that we brought in are consistent and totally complying with the zoning and with the surrounding properties.
Now, it seemed from when we interviewed from the other side, it seemed like they were saying that the current zoning was specific to park and recreational land, correct?
The open areas, and that that this was the allocated open area designated for how much land, I don't know.
Yeah, because of
but
the
for
whole
a
natural
property.
arroyo
Yeah.
and all that stuff. It's fascinating that the different sides of this, because now my head is
The
like
other
starting to
side,
spin.
these two sides could not, I think I see your problem.
They were shaking their heads no as you were stating
Guys,
that.
it's not complicated. It's not complicated. It's a continuation of the pressure from, illegal pressure from the neighbors that installed the councilman, ran him on the ticket that he is not going to allow any development. He said it. Open air in the council, you can see it. He said, over my dead body, this piece of property will be developed. You see the results of it. He's claiming that it's an open space. He gave us, rise to a claim of inverse condemnation. We're suing the city right now for hundreds of millions of dollars worth of condemnation. And Judge Crockett's order that affirmed the city, the position of the neighbors that our property is subject to a general plan, okay, gave us, basically, we walked into court, Judge Crockett's court, with zoning, RPD 7, up to 7.5 units, and we walked out asking to get a better zoning, and we walked out with no zoning at all.
At all.
It's called judicial taking under the United States law, Supreme Court's decision, and a United States Constitution.
There are a couple of things that I think that we should make clear. One is, you obviously know this as well as anybody. This is your project. This has been your life. I imagine it's consumed a good deal of it. Our intent today is to allow you to give your side of the story, because there's no way I'm going to be able to drill down to this level of that you're talking about. You mentioned the councilman, and we work with his law firm and with him. I want to make that disclosure. But we're not here to fight the fight. I'm here to hear your side of the story. Let me ask you something. One of the issues that seems to make this a little bit different, because I've been in a couple of these where they close golf courses, is that the land itself in the golf course closures and the other golf course closures lend themselves to building. You've got houses over here that are on flat land. You've got a golf course over here, and it's on flat land. This is a little bit different in that, as you mentioned, as an arroyo. It's built on an arroyo. Does that arroyo extend to all of the property, or is there part of it that is easily built on without any issues? Your original plan, what you were talking about, your original plan.
This is a farce. This is a farce that the homeowners bought. The councilman is dragging, dead carcass into court, saying into the council, okay, saying, oh, this is the reason it cannot be developed. Tivoli could not be developed, and another probably 1,500 acres could not be developed if what they're claiming right now would be the case. This is not Las Vegas water, it's a federal water that's coming up from the mountains, from the area 503, 502, 501A. It's a watershed areas, city block size, that are all draining into washes that come into our wash. Everything developed on top of that. Peccoli Ranch next to it. The wash that runs to Peccoli Ranch developed next to it. So we could have done the same type of development. Everywhere else you have houses on the same water coming to our property. And when all these washes converge together, they go on the rampart, they go on the where? On the Tivoli Village. We built it. We put culverts in there. It's allowed. We have an agreement with the city allowing us to do it. So some councilman comes right now and saying, well, that's not like that. It should stay open drainage. We will fight this in court. This is a condemnation action. This is really, in the end of the day, we know that the city is trying to take the property from us. force us into a bankruptcy or otherwise and take the property and get the neighbors to get the property that for pennies. It's never going to happen. We're going to fight it all the way through.
Let me ask you a quick yes or no question. You feel, with your building experience, you feel confident that you're able to build around the issue of any flooding?
There's no issues. I want to make sure that you understand there's no issues. It's an invention. There's no issues of drainage. The city already approved the drainage and approved the plan after they did a major study to see if, and you know what they said? We wish you do it because it saves us a lot of hassle. It gets us with the feds, because we infrastructure, we put in concrete containing water so nobody can get hurt from it. It's exactly the reverse of what the position the councilman takes. And, we're all going to come.
Can I add
It's
to
exactly
that a
the-
little bit? This is not just about how we feel that we can build because of drainage. Drainage is an issue anytime you build, right? Throughout the whole city. Of course, we have engineers. Of course, we have experts. Of course, we have to pass certain certifications through other government organizations. The planning department already approved it. So drainage is a made-up. Don't forget the planning department approved.
When you say the planning department approved, what was that plan, and are you willing to go forward with that plan that went
The
through the
planning
planning
department-
department?
Drainage.
Yeah.
She's talking about drainage. The
Yeah.
planning department and public works have approved the drainage while the fight is going on. While they get all the pressure from the neighbors, don't approve it. There's no way I cannot approve it because they're actually doing something better for the neighborhoods and for public interest. So those concrete culverts, it costs tens of millions of dollars to put in, would have mitigate issues years to come. And we know how to develop properties. I want to just say something very important. Queensridge property, the towers are built on this golf course. Many homes in Queensridge, including Mr. Schreck's house, Mr. Binion's house, my house, portion, is on the original idea of a golf course, this hypothetical golf course. I want to make sure that this comes as clear as possible. We are not open space to anybody. There's no required open space in the master plan. It's all a farce. It's a defense that it will fall apart in court. We have statutes and we have ordinances on this piece of property that cleaning all the other arguments. Now, if they want to come with new arguments, we'll fight them too. The temporary taking on the property, by the time the city will change its position and going to give us the rights, or the court's going to give us the rights, the temporary taking will be to the tunes of tens, if not $100 million. Just the temporary taking that we sue in the city for. There is a clear law on that, and the city violates continuously, and Councilman Soroka is not working for the taxpayer. He's working for a few individuals in Queensridge. Never sat with us for one time. When I went to ask him, he said, you're not meeting with me, telling neighbors I'm refusing to meet with him. I pick up a phone, I call, I say, I'm willing to meet with you. I get a letter from the city attorney, you have to sign a disclosure in order to meet with your councilman. He will meet with anybody else, but when I speak to him, I have to have...
So question, today, what is it that you want to build? What are the numbers?
Today, I want to get, I already got approved for 435 units. I'm seeking the Supreme Court to reverse Judge Crockett's order, allow for our zoning to continue so we can go back, so we can go and start building finally this piece of property for what we're entitled to. And every other plan we are going to submit at this point on the areas that we submitted are complying with zoning and complying with all the requirements under Title 19 to develop the property.
435 units, are any of those vertical, or are they? Are you doing a tower, or are you?
No, it's a low rise. It's a four-story product over a podium. I apologize. There is a wraparound on the garage, so it's a four-story product wrap.
Okay, so it's like a low-rise condo,
It's a low-rise
type
condo,
complex.
and it is in the galley. So the first floor, the first unit in Queensridge, when you walk into the building, you walk and you see the pool. The first floor is the top of the roof of these four condos. So
Gotcha.
we're building something so sensible. We built the whole corner there. We
So
built the whole area.
are you planning on maintaining any part of the golf course? Because you talked about keeping part of the golf course open while you're laying out trees and everything. So are you trying to keep like 18 holes open down the road, or
No.
do you
there's no-
build over the
no
entire golf course completely? No golf course. Okay.
And now there'll be a few hundred homes on the golf course.
But you're
And that
talking
is
about
probably
putting
a
some-
single residential.
But you're also talking about putting in like some ponds and lakes for water rights and all that.
The original plan was to put only 65 lots. 65 lots only. So the slots will be 3 acre to one house. On each one of them, we would have put in, substantial landscaping, over 2 acres of landscaping that we would landscape and irrigate with our water in perpetuity. So those, we had a reservation on lots, 5 acres, over 5 acre lots. We had a lot, 125 acre, 24 and a half acre lot that was spoken for. One single piece of property with water rights. They screamed in the city council, this would devalue our homes. Anybody think that some, many tens of $1 million construction and a lot cost would devalue $1 million homes is
This is a wild fight
less
because
than,
the public is sort of like the city's really making it seem like he's this big, huge anti-environmental developer, and that once he builds this building, Rampart Street's just going to be just under 6 feet of water, and there's going to be a river running every time it rains. So this is interesting to kind of hear. This,
I don't know who is in the city senate except Steve Soroka. Steve Soroka is on record saying he'll never let this piece of property develop. So he'll say anything. He's getting sued personally, and he's getting sued in his capacity, so he can no longer be a part of this game. There's a clear federal law on this, and he's probably going to have to step down. I hope that the judge will do it sooner rather than later, that we can stop the pain to the taxpayers and stop the pain for the neighbors that right now cannot sell their homes. Queensridge got trashed over the fight of the golf course. The HOA, they're more busy with fighting the golf course rights and instead of negotiating the plan. They came and negotiated with me about couple months. The city attorney have forced them before the hearing on the development plan that the neighbors require. They demanded it'll be a development agreement on the whole golf course, so they'll know every piece of the property, what's going to be developed, what's not. I told them that I tried to negotiate with the neighbors, but they won't tell us what they want. So he brought them into City Hall, forced them, the HOA, and saying, you're now going to tell us what you want. And I kept on asking, what do you want, guys? Please tell me what you want. I'm willing to change. Here's my pen. Just tell me what you want. They couldn't tell me what they want. We don't know what we want.
Just a real quick step back. Does the current plan include any commercial development, or would it be exclusively residential?
Right now it's exclusively residential.
It went from 65 to 435, is that correct?
No, it's incorrect.
Where
435 is right next to Rampart. It's a multifamily area. So that's where we got entitled for it. The neighbors sued. Judge Crockett agreed with the neighbors, and now it's at the Supreme Court.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Are you willing to meet with that city councilman now, right now, and just say, let's figure this out?
I'm willing to meet at any time, but I'm not dismissing any of the suit, and no, we are going to give up an inch of the property at this point after what they've done to our company and to our name.
So what is the out here? How does this end up being resolved? Is it just your way, or is there some interim step?
It's only the legal way. There's no other way to resolve this thing. We can't trust anybody. They all lied to us. The city lied to us. City council people lied to us. City planning didn't, turn their position all of a sudden, start saying that we are part of the Colony Ranch Master Plan. So at this point, it's only going to have to resolve in court. I want to tell you why. With the neighbors, is we've been cheated so many times. Here's the deal. Here's the deal. The last deal. If you agree with that, you have a deal. Okay, so we sign the paper, and then they go back and explode the whole thing in city council and demand something new. So they cheated us continuously and on record, and we have letters to show. They say we're only doing this to prolong the agony, very successfully to prolong the agony of the developer. We think that it rises to the level of criminality at this point, but it's not there. In this state, nobody will will act on it. But we have to have a judge decide what our rights are and what's not. And the reason is because if not, and we'll make a deal with some of the neighbors, somebody else will come and sue and hold us up again. We can't take this chance anymore. We don't trust anybody. Therefore, we have to get to the courts and resolve it to the courts. There is no deal that the city can afford because they're being controlled by a few homeowners. They're demanding we hand over 180 acres and the water rights. Not gonna do it.
Does this go to the appellate court, or does this go to the Supreme Court next? Your date. What is your date? How many lawsuits?
It's in the Supreme Court. The 435 is in the Supreme Court. That's Judge Crockett's order. Now, you mentioned Judge Crockett's order, but you didn't mention Judge Smith's order.
Yeah, you said there was this is in the last couple of days, and what is that?
No, Judge Smith's order came long before Judge Crockett's order. What the city is doing is ignoring Judge Smith's order. Judge Smith's order had several findings, and it was an actual lawsuit and had an evidentiary hearing. Judge Crockett's order came from what's called a petition for judicial review. It's a 20-minute hearing. It has a completely different standard. So you don't make all these findings of facts, generally speaking, in petitions for judicial review, as Judge Crockett did. But we have an order from Judge Smith that came a year prior, no, in November of 2016, that said they absolutely have rights and they absolutely have rights to build. So that order has been virtually ignored by the city council. They pretend that it doesn't exist and they don't even mention it. So it's interesting. And the city keeps changing its position and going after different legal positions in order to maintain some type of a case. The city and the homeowners who,
They're
essentially
colluding together.
taking up the same
What
argument.
is the date in the Supreme Court?
Well, it doesn't quite work that way. The briefing's being handled in the Supreme Court now. Once they get all the briefing, they will set the date to hear the matter. So I can guess at this point, because it doesn't work the same way you have a specific deadline like you do in district court. We think it's going to be maybe end of this year, early next year. It's just the way it works in the
Between
Supreme
now and
Court.
2025.
No, it should be. I mean, I think it'll be early next year potentially. It's hard to say. The briefing has to be finished and then they'll set it, and they'll decide whether they'll set it for oral argument and hearing or whether they'll decide on the papers that are filed.
So in the interim, you're basically standing still. Is that correct? In terms of,
No.
We are proceeding with our cases. We have more cases to file. We are
but
not
I'm
gonna-
talking about from a standpoint of any kind of construction or
Of
anything
building.
like
Well,
that. There's,
we've
we
submitted
can.
for every parcel that we own there. We've offered a development agreement, we've offered multifamily, we went for our zoning, and it's either been declined or fought by the homeowners in one way or another, so it ends up in the district courts, that you only have 25 days to challenge what the city council has done. Since Soroka's come on board, they've denied everything, with the planning commission and the city staff recommending approval. With the planning commission recommending approval, Soroka denies it. He struck our motions and wouldn't let us speak at the last hearing. So that, we're not even getting due process. That's what the federal lawsuit's about, being biased and not allowing us to have our day and present our matter. They don't have proper legal reasons in which to deny the building. Zoning's the end of the game. Zoning is king. Once you get zoning, you can't take it away. If you do take it away, you have to pay for it. That's the Nevada Constitution and the U.S. Constitution protect landowners for that very reason.
So what's Councilman Soroka has done with basically expunging those applications,
Yeah.
he's forced us to file city planning. City attorney has admitted that the PROS, this open
Parks,
space, that you're talking about, park, recreation, open space, an illegal action was taken on our property without a due process. And it's meaningless, you say. Even if it was done with the process, it supersedes, zoning supersedes it.
Yeah.
So the city admitted it's an illegal action. The PROS is an illegal action was taken in 2005 on our property. Yet they ask us continuously to file an application to remove it from the property. So we, cooperate. The city tells you what to file. We filed it, and they denied every single time to remove the PROS. Meanwhile, it choke our land rights because it shows you 0 units per acre designation for this area. But zoning supersedes 7.5 units. So I don't have to file it. You just have to give me my permission to build. And city attorney on record, you can see it in the meetings, keep on saying it doesn't matter. They're superseded by zoning, and they can build up to 7.5 units per acre.
so is
So
that
the city, just a second, that's a very important point. So the city, so Mr. Soroka is an hour before we file application on 180 acres, on 166 acres. An hour before is saying, if you don't file this application again, okay, we're not going to accept the application. I said, well, we don't have to, and you agree that we don't have to do it. It's meaningless. Well, if you don't, you can file under protest, don't worry about it. So we go and file it under protest, because otherwise they would not accept the application. And when we get to the meeting, he denies, he struck the zoning, he struck the application off the agenda because we don't have a cooling period of 1 year for this application that we filed. The illegal action that they forced us to file an application for, and then struck our applications. This is, he wants to be the judge, the jury, and the executioner, and there'll be a payment for that. He's going to have to explain this to a higher authority.
the position of Brad Jerbick? Is he with you? He sounds like he's supporting your position.
Brad Jerbick for 2.5 years, from the beginning of the project, support the position and helped. I don't know what his position is right now. He's obviously, we don't see him, we don't talk to him. He's been, replaced by outside lawyers.
So he said that you had the right to build 7 units per acre. Is that the number?
Up to 7.5 units.
Okay.
He confirmed it. He didn't give us those rights. The city attorney doesn't have the right. There's a zoning action taken in 2001 that gave us
But he
those
takes the
rights.
position.
There's no other position
It's
to
not
take.
position-
It's on the
it's
law.
zoning.
It
Sounds
is what
like
it
there
is.
might be.
No,
No, there's not.
Lawyers can convolute anything, right? They can come up with arguments. That's what they've done. They've made up arguments. But I want to make just one comment regarding the homeowners. Another thing they always seem to evade and never bring up, and that's, what CC&Rs are. If you live in a homeowners association,
Sure.
you certainly know what they are. You're bound by them by law. Their CC&Rs of these homeowners in Queensridge not only tell them that the golf course is not their property and not part of Queensridge, but that it is developable. It's very clear. It's in their own CC&Rs. They know the property could be developed. The CC&Rs told them so, and they're bound by that. So to come forward and claim that they fall under some, other master plan or non-master plan, whatever new argument they come up with, and this is their third latest, the other two shot down by different courts, it's just disingenuous. They're fully aware that this property was developable. And guess what? They have a choice. They don't have to stay there. They bought the property knowing it could be developable, the golf course.
What do you think the residents are worried about? Do you think they just don't want more people moving in? They don't want a building? Or
It's
do you think
it's hard to know.
they miss
Moving into
looking?
Hollywood.
I don't
You think they
know.
just miss looking at the golf course and the greenery?
I think that I have.
It sounds like one of those arguments where I wonder if the homeowners really even know the true story of what's actually going on. I mean, and you as a homeowner of the community, so it's interesting because you're doing this in your neighborhood,
In your own
essentially.
backyard, yeah.
Do you find yourself being sort of maybe outcasted by your neighbors a little bit?
Absolutely. They lie and deceive, and
Just start to become
because,
almost uncomfortable going home at night?
No, I'm very comfortable going. I'm right, and I don't have a problem with in the end of the day, when we're going to get to build our zoning, either we're going to get a big check, or either they're going to have to give us to build our zoning, because we are not asking for anything else. We are not subject to any ordinances. There's not an open space of anything, and we'll litigate to the end of the earth. But when we're going to get to build, what we're entitled to, every homeowner in the neighborhood would understand that what we put on the table the first time coming out would have been a dream that no developer in this country have ever done. We went to the extent of building 3.5 acres per unit and landscape the whole thing and do paths and give water to the homeowners and their HOA and a few handful of big neighbors decided that maybe they should own the property and not us. And it doesn't work like that. This is we have rights under the law, and we are protecting our rights now.
So just to be clear, are you willing to go back to that original plan?
No,
Okay.
because it's required a zone change. And the zone change, it is discretionary, and it will be.
You're back to starting.
But exactly, we do not want to change anything. We already have zoning. We're sticking to the zoning.
But that plan already got denied by city council, so why would we go back to it?
Well, the question is this, when there was a
Vice
time that the city council, help me with the math here, Beers was for you, correct? Mm-hmm. The mayor was for you. Mm-hmm. Who else was, from the outset, was on your side?
I think that most were on our side before the neighbors came in. Everybody was on our side, because I met with them. Everyone, I said, here's the alternative. This is an RPD 7 piece of property. I'm willing to do this, to harvest the zoning from one end of the property, from 180 acres, and concentrate everything on 70 acres. And they thought that this is genius. You're going to build 65 homes, mega lots. Now remember, this is a canyon-y type of property, right? So when you build a home in the middle of it, you don't see it from the golf course, from the neighboring property. You put the trees on both lines, you don't see it, you see only green. They all see. It was a dream. They thought that they can do better in court. It's a very expensive fight, but it doesn't matter how much it costs at this point. We'll take it all the way to the end now.
Today, the mayor is still with you, correct?
I have no idea what the mayor is. About what? She's not. The mayor could have ended up long before. She could have approved the 61 lot, and would be the end of the process. And maybe then it would be a solution that we could come in and negotiate something better. But she decided to deny it and saying, no, I want to see a whole plan. There's no rights for jurisdiction to tell an individual to bring all the parcels together and make one property. Well, we played the game because we really wanted to help everybody, and we believe that the city is, trying to do the right thing. And wrote the entire thing, negotiate for 1.5 years or more. Development agreement demanded by the homeowners. The city required it. They don't have a right to require it. We say, we'll play the game, we'll do it. And then they denied it. They said, we're not going to let you develop the 61 lots, RPD 7, because we want to see a whole plan. We bought a whole plan with 5 lots instead of 61, and they denied it.
What was the last vote that went down with 2 in your favor and the balance of the board against you?
That was Soroka striking our most recent applications for the remainder of the property.
Okay,
So
and the
that
mayor
we're-
stayed with you and Fiore stayed with you, correct? Is there
yes.
anybody else?
No, well,
No.
it was they stayed with us to an extent, right? The mayor said you can only speak about this procedurally. We were caught off guard. They violated their own code, by the way, by doing that. Steve, Soroka, you have to give notice to the applicant that you're bringing a motion. It was a surprise to everyone. If you watched the city council hearing, it was a surprise to the attorney. It was a surprise to every council member up there that there was a motion to strike. Suddenly, they pulled our application forward, struck it from the record.
And if-
after adopting an ordinance that will essentially prevent us from developing.
So there is a set of lawsuits that are going to be filed on that very specific issue.
Yeah.
But you understand, you can't be the judge, the jury, and the executioner. And that's exactly what you have done, and we're gonna find it.
Let me ask you this: is there, when you look at it from 40,000 feet, it looks like there's an obvious alternative, and that is a land swap. Is that something that is on the table, or you wouldn't consider that?
We don't understand what they're talking about. The councilman ran on the platform, oh, I have a solution, vote for me, I have a solution because we're gonna swap the property. And, since then, I'm hearing people talking about swap the property. We don't know what they're talking about. We don't want to swap a piece of property that's worth a few $100 million and go and swap it with, we don't know. We don't know what they're talking about. Nobody
Bought the
approached
property.
us.
You want to use it for what you bought it
That's
for.
exactly that.
Property is unique.
It's about protecting my house, protecting all the assets. We're the highest owners of real estate in Queensridge. In Queensridge and in the towns.
I would like to back up to one thing, because this I think a lot of people were surprised by this. Instead of appealing Judge Crockett's decision, you sued him. Why was that?
No, we did it. That is an appeal.
That's a story that the opposition and we know we came from, but I didn't hear it firsthand, so I can't tell. But we understand what they're doing. It's just a continuation of this disparagement and villainization of us.
Well,
we have sued.
Let me clarify.
you can elaborate on the legal.
First of all, we did appeal Judge Crockett's decision. That's the one that's pending in front of the Supreme Court that we talked about. We may get a decision end of year, beginning of year, depending on when they set the schedule for. The other matter that we filed was a inverse condemnation case under a theory of a judicial taking, because we believe Judge Crockett overstepped his bounds and made rulings that affected the property and potentially all of the property. And as he said on the record, hey, judges make mistakes too.
That's crazy.
It's a concept called judicial taking. It's not a personal lawsuit against him. It's in his official capacity. In order to bring a judicial taking, you by the way, it's very common. You can sue judges. It's not in their individual capacity. It's for a decision they make. And under this particular cause of action, it's a judicial taking. That's what you do. So it's not personally liable.
So I guess the next question is, where do you go from here? Is it just court now? Is that all there is? Attorneys know in their heart of hearts if there's an opening for a settlement, if there's an opening to get off of this track, or is it just headed for court and everybody?
We've done everything we could do. I don't know what else there is from our end to do. By the way, we didn't bring these lawsuits. We were sued for, 2 years? Every time there was something favorable to us, we would be sued by the homeowners. So it wasn't until more recently that we said enough is enough. Some homeowners, a handful.
It's only a handful.
Who we call the kind of elite Queensridge.
It's a
elite.
rocket. It's not I'll call it what it is. It's a rocket.
They're influential and powerful. They told us so in the beginning, and so we were on the defense. We wanted to work it out. We wanted to develop. That's ultimately the business that we're in, and unable to do so, we finally said we got to protect our land rights. We have no choice. At this point, it's clear we're not going to be allowed to develop. That's fine. That's called inverse condemnation. When the government takes action and does certain things that restrict you from building, when you have clear rights to build, that's our zoning, they have to pay for it. You're not allowed to do that. We're protected by the Constitution. That's the point of it. Property is right up there with life and liberty. Right?
Right. So to sharpen the point of why the councilman was here in your show here telling you it's an open space, it's a defense that they're trying to market, saying, well, we didn't really take the property, we didn't really prevent the development of the property under the zoning codes because it's a POS. And in the end, I can say, oh, it's a big mistake because we really thought it was open space. Well, City Attorney Brad Jobic said it's not an open space, could not be an open space on the record, could not be an open space because nobody can step on it. It cannot be the open space is behind your fence because no other property will ever be developed. And if the Supreme Court would have made a mistake in this case and adopt the open space, or the federal court would treat the property as an open space, it'll open up for condemnation. The city can just move a cloud of POS on any property, your property, and basically take it because you won't be able to develop it. So we don't think it's likely to happen.
This is an interesting case, and
This
obviously,
is fascinating.
we need a wall with a projector on it so that we can lay it out for 6 months ahead of time. It's an interesting chess match, and it doesn't sound to me as if there is any other option but court. I see how it, because there is virtually no common ground on any of these issues, and I know that if I were a developer and had a few $1 million into it, I might feel the same way as well. Your original investment, the original purchase was 7.5, is that correct?
We paid for a couple companies. We bought from them, portfolio from the Picolis. We spent about 15, but we invested a lot of money into the property, and we invested before in the past. We invested a lot of money to be in a position to capture this piece of property. So we are very well invested on this golf course. It's not about how much you paid. It's about what it's worth today, and it's the highest and best use, and that's what we let again.
Anything you like to add? I'll give you the big wrap up. Did we leave some stone unturned?
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. The city of Las Vegas turned to be a voice and an executioner for certain homeowners that are running them. I think that taxpayers are at risk. I think that it can cause serious damage to the way the city functions in the future, and the city should do the right thing and reverse its position and allow us to move on with our rights and let the homeowners sue till the cow comes home and try to stop us. That's it.
I have one for you, one last question, and I think I already know the answer. You lose at the state Supreme Court level. Do you keep going?
Yeah, of course.
There you go. I think that's new news. I'm not sure, but I wonder where it'll be new news.
Look, it's land rights. You don't get to negotiate land rights. You either have them or you don't. If you have them, you need to build. You should be able to build them. If you don't have them, you don't have them. Period. The court will tell us we don't have them, and there'll be a condemnation. That's it.
Yeah, it's not so much a chess match as a bare knuckle brawl at this point, with both sides
Rolling on
just
the
dug
ground.
in and taking it till the end.
And we're standing on the sidelines
Well,
trying to explain how this started.
Just so you know, we tried the other route with 72 meetings with homeowners. We've met with the city for 3 years. We tried the other
That's
route. When we realized it was futile, we had no choice.
It's a good old boys flexing the muscles. We believe it's unlawful, and we are not going to take it.
And with that, we call it a day. The Vegas Legal Podcast. I want to sincerely thank you, Yohan Lowie, founder, CEO of EHB Companies. Thank you for joining us. Tyler Morgan, publisher of Vegas Legal Magazine. Jeff Haney, vice president of Fierro Communications. Remember to like and share the Vegas Legal Magazine podcast on Facebook, and also catch us on YouTube, iTunes, or Stitcher, my personal favorite. For all of you out there with a story idea, an axe to grind, get hold of Vegas Legal Magazine, the leading magazine in Southern Nevada legal market. You can call Tyler at
702-222-3476.
reach out, tell your friends. Have a good one. We're out of here.